It is really my incredible honor to welcome today's guest. And I have to say, I generally prefer short bios, except that today's leader is an incredibly accomplished leader. And so I want to be sure that I pay her justice for all that she has accomplished. Joining us is Dr. Jacklyn A. Chisholm, President and CEO of Step Forward, one of Ohio's largest community action agencies, where she leads programs advancing education, economic self-sufficiency, and community resilience. She's the founder of It's Worth It Consulting and is the author of Leadership Lessons, Notes from and for the Journey. She's a longtime advocate for equitable access, and she has expanded Step Forward's reach to better serve diverse and underserved populations. A lifelong learner, Jackie has earned her bachelor's degree, her master's, and a PhD in psychological anthropology from Case Western Reserve University. Boy, have they got to love her. She has also attended a number of different executive education programs. I have to say, maybe the most I've seen anyone do, including several programs at Harvard Business School, plus Wharton, Bryn Mawr College, and as a Smith grad, go women's colleges, and Cornell. Before joining Step Forward in 2015, Dr. Chisholm held a variety of roles, including Vice President of Planning and External Affairs at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where she did an unbelievable job leading the $13 million construction of the library and archives. She was also a former Associate Vice President for Community Partnerships and the Director of Community Relations at Case Western Reserve University. I don't know when she sleeps. Because of her leadership, she has earned widespread recognition, including Crain's Cleveland Notable Leader, Smart Business Progressive Woman of the Year, YWCA Woman Achievement. I could go on for days, but I will stop. I will stop. Last but not least, I am delighted to say that she is a proud member of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2008. And Jackie is one of our very involved champions in this year's Cleveland Champions programs. Dr. Chisholm, Jackie, thank you for joining us today, and please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Becky, just for the opportunity to have the conversation. So you talked a little bit about Step Forward. Let me give a few more details about the organization. We are Cuyahoga County's community action agency. Every county in Ohio has one associated with it, and we're Cuyahoga counties. We work with low-income families. We help move them from poverty to self-sufficiency. And we do that through a number of programs. The one that, or two that most people are aware of are the number one, the Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP, and then the second is Head Start. But we also do counseling. We help with emergency services, food, clothing, furniture. We do car repair. We do all kinds of things just to help families get from day to day. The other thing that I think is important to know, one of the questions that I was asked to address, what are the challenges? And right now, the biggest challenge is funding. And that's true for almost every nonprofit organization. Our funding is probably about 97, 98% federal, some of which comes through the state of Ohio. So when the government shut down, we were all, in a position of having to figure out how are we going to maintain services because the need is so great. It hasn't changed. The need, if anything, has gotten much bigger and broader. So what we've started doing, the other thing that I would say is we have a challenge with vacancies, teacher vacancies. During COVID, we lost probably a third of our teaching staff, and I don't mean to death, but a lot of people who do teaching with younger people, they stay. They love working with the kids. One of my colleagues says the little people give knee hugs. And so teachers who were in their 60s, 70s, some of whom were in their 80s, decided to retire. Well, all of a sudden we had a gap. I think our vacancy right now is about 52 teaching positions. So what we've done is incentivized people to, number one, get into the field. So we have a program that we created called People as Teachers, where we help anyone who is interested in working with kids, not interested in finding anybody who's just trying to find a job. I really want people who care about children. Okay. So we created that. We offer an incentive for people who are hired into that position. It's $5,000. We offer an incentive for our staff to refer really good candidates to us. So that's one of the things that we've started doing. And then we're on the Hill a lot, or we're at, downstate talking to our legislators because they need to understand the impact that we make. And then finally, through the Cleveland Foundation, shout out to them, they gave us a capacity building grant that will allow us to create a development arm of the agency. We've got to diversify the funding. So I think, Becky, those were the questions that you all wanted me to address. And as you and I got before we got on camera, I said, I really want this to be a conversation. I want us to help people understand what it means to lead. And so with that, that's step forward. And I want to shout out some of the employees that I see on screen. Hey, step forward. How are you?
I love it.
So I'm ready.
You've got legions of fans, both those who are part of the employment universe as well as beyond. So Jackie, look at the crowd you grew. So listen, I love the concept of having a conversation. I want to dig a little deeper in Head Start. I'm
Sure.
sorry, in Step Forward, including talking a little bit about Head Start, and then
Sure.
I'd love to talk a little bit about your personal journey. So
Okay.
so let's start with a few more questions about Step Forward. So Head Start is often described, and I have to disclose, I have a bias about Head Start. My mother was a lifelong pediatrician who was very committed to Head Start in the Northwest Ohio area. So I'd love to talk a little more about Head Start. It's often described as both an education and a family support program. I'd love to know if you could give us a little more details about what Head Start at Step Forward looks like today.
Sure. So let's start with the fact that with Head Start, and I had to be schooled on this when I first arrived. There's no disrespect to daycares. Daycares play an important role. Head Start's not daycare though. We do pre and post testing. There's a curriculum that goes with it. Our teachers are credentialed. It helps families understand, for us, it's helping the child get prepared for school. If they start school kindergarten in a deficit, it doesn't get better. It becomes cumulative. So what Head Start, when it was created and still has its mission now, is to prepare a child for school to be successful. Many of the children who go through our program, not only are they prepared for school, but they're prepared for life. We always talk about that. And for the parents, it's training, it's parent training, parent development. We also do leadership training for our parents to help them understand that they are the advocates, the first advocates for their children and for themselves. So it's an amazing program, and it has, millions of kids who've gone through the program in its 60 years. We're just happy to be able to continue to support it and ask anyone who can either call your legislator or write a letter to let them know this is an important program. You're talking about the next generation of leaders. And so we have to start early.
Right. And quick question, who qualifies for Head Start?
So every program that we offer that's a federal program, it has different criteria. So unfortunately, I don't remember the specific one, but if they go to our website, stepforwardtoday.org, there's information on the website, and that's for all of our programs.
Fabulous. Great. I'm curious about the leadership training that you provide for parents. That's an incredible concept. Both, I have to say, both in the education arena as well as in the medical arena, creating a concept about being an advocate for yourself and for your children is, I think, critical. Can you talk a little bit more about specifically what is it that parents are being trained on with respect to leadership?
Well, part of it is child development, but also with the parents is helping them understand the importance of their voice. It's important of their showing up, the importance of their participation, reading to their children. But we also do, like I said, leadership training. So we have something called the Policy Council. Every one of our sites, and we have 10 sites, every one of our sites has a policy council associated with it. So they have meetings, board meetings, where Robert's Rules of Order that are trained, and we then have the policy council executive session. So they meet every month and they talk about the program, and we work hand in hand with those parents. The Head Start Act requires that we have a policy council. So can you imagine walking in the door and being able to participate in something like that on that level? We also bring them to Columbus with us. We take them to DC with us. They walk the Hill with us. So again, it exposes our parents to the importance of their voice in this and the importance of their participation in their child's life.
What a powerful message and set of skills to be helping not just individual parents, but entire families with. It's tremendous. You mentioned that one of the other areas that Step Forward works in is energy assistance and household stability, specifically your HEAP program, Home Energy Assistance Programs. I read a recent news release that you've expanded your locations, and I'm guessing that the demand, the need is only serving to rise. Can you talk a little bit about what the expansion was that you've done, and what you're seeing in terms of trends?
Okay. So as far as the expansion is concerned, we are now the sole heat provider in Cuyahoga County. There used to be two of us, and now we're the only ones. So part of the expansion is we are now the sole, the only ones who do this. You can imagine, given that November was probably one of the coldest on record, December, I mean, the weather that we have experienced recently, you normally don't see this until February. And so the need not only is great, it always has been. The funding isn't there to meet the need. All of us are going to say that funding is never enough to meet the need. But what we try to do, especially with the expansion, is we have people sometimes, lining up at 6 o'clock in the morning before we open, and wrapping around one of our buildings in particular. So what we've tried to do is put boots on the ground, try to be more efficient with what we're doing using technology. It's a challenge no matter how we do that, but what we tell people, and I often come to the room to say, thank you for trusting us with your time. We have a committed group of people, and I mean that sincerely, from the Head Start to community services to the HEAP staff. These are committed staff members. They're here to help. And so once people understand we're here to help, we want to help you. The one thing I will say is that I also have to sometimes remind people we're human too. And
Yeah.
so we may make mistakes, but please charge it to our head and not to our heart. Our job is to help. That's why people work here, because they have a heart to help. So the expansion was primarily because of becoming the sole heat provider, but more importantly, just how do we make it more efficient, effective for those who need our help?
To that point, let me grab a question out of the chat. So you mentioned your employees, and it's tough work that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about how you can ensure your team members are connected to each other in terms of understanding the overall missions and efforts of the organization? Plus, I'd love to understand what's your vision for how you can keep your team, the
Right.
broadest sector of the team, resilient and engaged when the work is so hard?
Okay. So that's like multi.
Yep.
All right, so let's start with the how to keep the team together. One of the things that we've tried to do is we survey our staff. And I always say, don't ask anybody for their opinion if you're not going to do something with it. All right, so we keep everybody informed about that. So what we heard loud and clear was there was an issue of communication. So we may share the information with the people, our direct reports. We can't guarantee that information filters down. So Angela Graves, who is our vice president of communications, Angela said, why don't we create a virtual town hall meeting every month? So every month, the third Wednesday of every month at 4 o'clock, every employee can log in. They can send us questions anonymously. We'll answer their questions in the chat. And the only thing I say to them, which is what I did not say to you at the beginning of this, is I have a personal mission statement of open, honest, direct communication. Are you comfortable with that? And so I start that way because I want them to understand I will answer your question if I can answer it. If I cannot answer it, I will tell you that. I will not blow smoke. And so it's taken 10 years to help people understand this is who I am, this is how I operate, and you can take it to the bank. Whatever I told you is exactly what I meant. So that's one way, is the virtual meeting. The second is we visit. I believe in management by walking around. So I'll go to the different sites and I'll ask questions just to find out what's going on the ground. And what I ask them to do is, number one, tell me what's going on. But the next thing I say, and what did you do to try to make this better? I'm happy to step in. But what did you do to try to make it better? And if we find that there's a bottleneck, my responsibility, the leadership team's responsibility, is to fix that bottleneck, because we understand we have to take care of the people who are taking care of the people.
Yeah. Yeah. If they fall down, the rest of it just goes away. Yeah. So a third area of focus that you talked about that Step Forward touches on is your community service programs. And those programs are clearly focused on moving people towards economic self-sufficiency. Can you talk a little more in detail about what that journey for a client looks like today?
Sure. So for many of our clients, they come through either looking for a job, so we do job placement. And matter of fact, before I arrived here, when I was at Case Western Reserve, I used to get CEOG, our former name, CEOG's job listing that was very extensive. So we still do that. Our part of our the community services side is to help people find jobs. But what most people were not aware of is we actually do counseling. We have social workers who are on staff, and I believe you can get either 3 visits. I don't think it's 3 months, but I think maybe 3 visits. And if I'm wrong, please forgive me, step forward staff. Okay. But we want people to be aware, and especially during the pandemic, that was key. We even needed some staff, going back to your question about like, how do we take care of staff? One of the things that we started doing was making available to our staff counselors. So we hired counselors to go to our different sites so that people would feel comfortable having a conversation with someone because of what was going on. And we acknowledge the changes that are happening. So the same thing is true with our clients. We are here, but most people, I thank you, Becky, for the question. Most people are not aware that we do counseling.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share an example, Jackie? I'm fascinated by the universe of what to the outside observer could look like very distinct and different services, but how
Right.
they're really part of an integrated effort to deliver better outcomes to families. Do you have a specific example that
I
maybe,
do.
okay, terrific.
I do. And this is really the touchstone for me. I had not been in my position that long. And there was a young lady who worked in the building. She didn't work for us, and she was a contract worker, and she cleaned the buildings. And every day you would see her smiling until one day I didn't. And so I asked her as we were getting on the elevator, I said, "Are you okay?" And she just kind of did like this. And she said, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to pay rent. And I said, apparently you don't know what we do. I said, come with me. So I took her to our office and I introduced her to Doug Bennett. A lot of people on the call know Doug. Doug is our vice president at the time of community services and external affairs. I said, let me introduce you to Doug. So Doug made sure that she got a voucher for her home. I mean, what we found, what he found in his conversation with her was she and her 14-year-old son were sleeping on a mattress. They didn't have a bed. She couldn't pay her rent because if a contract worker does not go to work, they don't get paid. Okay. And so we were able to get her furniture, we were able to pay for her rent, and ultimately helped her find another job at University Hospital. So that one is every time I think about that, it gives me chills about the importance of having programs like ours to help people who, number one, are in crisis, but number two, to help them view a life beyond where they are right now and to create a path for them.
Yeah. So it's a perfect example, and I'm curious. One of the questions in the chat is, and with that example in mind, what can those who are joining us in the conversation today, or who pick it up later, who are not connected to Step Forward or not engaged in Head Start, what can they do to support your work and to convey to public sector decision makers how essential and important the work is that you all do?
Okay. Number one, we're always looking for funding.
Hmm?
So I started with that. Because here's the interesting thing. Using the different criteria for the programs. If a person makes $1 too much, and I mean that, $1 too much, they are no longer eligible to receive our services. We have families who are making decisions about whether or not they should take an increase in pay because they're going to lose benefits. Those are kind of things. So the funding would be really helpful to us in helping more families. Number two, we do have volunteers. Now, because most of the volunteers are in our Head Start program, you'd have to go through a background check in order to volunteer. And that's fine if that's something that you want to do. We can always use extra sets of hands for little people. Right? And then number three, to spread the word. If you go to our website again, stepforwardtoday.org, you can see all of the programs that we have. And if you believe in the importance of supporting families who need help, just spread the word. Just tell the legislators. If you personally have been impacted by it, you've been in one of our programs, or a family member who's been helped, one of our programs, those are always the most important stories. And so if you're willing to tell the story, we can provide you some talking points. So just get in touch with us.
And it can be as simple as when this program is over and we share the link to today's conversation on social media and in emails, forward it.
Yeah,
Spread the word. Everyone in this room, think of the power of this Zoom room. If you spread the conversation from today to all of your contacts, that's a simple way. Click of a button.
absolutely.
Jackie, I would love, we've got about 9 minutes left in our conversation. I would love to shift the dialogue to think about and talk about your leadership journey.
Sure.
Could you talk to us a little bit about who or what most influenced your personal approach to leadership and to leading Step Forward and where you are today?
Okay. There are two people in particular. I won't mention names. Um, the first person, I actually watched him lead exceptionally well. And I remember being frustrated one day I was in a position where I felt like I didn't have the authority to influence anything. And so I went to him complaining about it. He kept putting me in different rooms and he said, Jack, I feel I failed as a leader if I have to use my authority. Leadership is influence. So that was one. The second person that I reported to, what I observed was, and this is what I believe leaders should do. If there is a problem, that's my responsibility. If there is an achievement, that's ours, all of us. I can't take credit for everything in the organization, but if there's a problem, it's mine. And I watched a particular leader that I worked with literally sidestep. And instead of saying, that's mine, I take care of it, and I put my people behind me, what they did was they moved over and let the people take that hit. And so that for me was a teachable, I can't even call it a moment, it was a teachable period of time. And so what I try to do, especially in leadership, for those who are either currently leaders or aspiring leaders, pay attention. Pay attention to if you were the person in that role. I'm not saying you should take on the role because that's a whole different issue. I've had some people who wanted to be co-CEO. It doesn't work. Okay. But I paid attention. If I were in that role, what would I hope to do? So from leaders I considered good leaders, I took a nugget. From leaders that I said, I would not do it that way, like this last one, I wouldn't do it that way. That's another nugget. And so be clear about your style. I'm a hugger. I want people to understand their importance to the organization because we are in the business of people, which means I need to make certain that I'm in the business of people. I have to model the behavior that I want to see from my staff. And so those are the two people who really come to mind as to, kind of who shaped my leadership role.
So you have also clearly been on a journey to continually invest in your leadership journey. You have, as I mentioned in the beginning of your introduction, beyond what I'll call your academic pursuit, you've also taken on the role, participation in a variety of different executive leadership programs. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you, because you've done several, to stay on that pathway and why you think that's such an important piece of building your own leadership capacity?
Okay, I'm a lifelong learner. I believe in doing that. I don't think anybody should ever say I have arrived.
Mhm.
And so I've dedicated myself to doing that. I've been at the agency maybe 3 months before I went to the first Harvard program. And I'm happy to report as of, I think, 2024, I'm now Harvard Business School alum. And, you know, and I never think that was going to happen. I just believe in looking for opportunities to learn more about myself, how to lead better. But again, I think it's a matter of modeling it. If I want the same thing for our team, we created a leadership academy in the organization because it's unfair to put people in leadership roles without preparing them for it. And too often we do that. And so I said it's important, but again, I have to muscle that. I believe in education. I believe in professional development, and I believe enough in it so that if we invest in you, hopefully we're going to get a return on that investment. You'll stay with us for a little bit of time. But if you leave, that's okay because we've gotten a better employee for having that investment in you. And then the next place is going to have a better employee, and then you'll be able to say, I got this from working at Step Forward.
So one of the hallmarks of a really good CEO, from my perspective, is that you, in addition to living in the moment and looking at building strategies for the future, you are also thinking about how to position your organization for succession planning long term. As you have started your second decade in your role as CEO, I'm curious, what are you doing, thinking about in terms of succession planning, both for you as well as for the senior leadership roles across the agency?
Okay. Great question. And it's funny that you should say going into my second decade. That was like a moment. So as I said, we started the Leadership Academy, and that was really when you think about baseball, who's on your bench and who's prepared. And so we hadn't thought about it in those terms. And so we started the academy about 3 years ago. So that was one. Number two, of course, the board is asking the question, what about succession planning? So every vice president who reports to me, and I have 6 vice presidents, each one of them had to look in their divisions and determine if, God forbid, I won't say if you get hit by a bus. I'll say instead, if there's another opportunity, who have you prepared to step into your role, either permanently or on an interim basis. So we have, I would say the most important thing is to be mindful and intentional about it. Before we weren't, we have a tendency to believe it's just going to organically happen. We become intentional about preparing our people.
Yeah. Jackie, you have also been a leader in our community who has been intentional, notwithstanding your day job, which is significant. You have been very active in the civic space. I'm curious about how you balance the priorities between running a business and feeling a commitment to being involved in the community.
Okay. So let's also bring in family because I have a husband
Fair enough.
and
Yes.
children. I made a conscious decision a few years ago when I was doing the leadership climb. You know, you have to be everywhere. You believe you have to be everywhere at all these things. Okay, so I'm not that anymore. So now I try to make certain that I'm at places where number one, Step Forward should be in the room. Okay, so I am intentional about that. Number two, if it's something that I care greatly about, I will be in the room. Number three, if it's a leader that I, admire, I trust, adore, I'm going to be in the room to support them. But beyond that, I go home. So if it doesn't meet any of those 3 criteria, I go home. And I usually don't take any of my work with me because what I found when I was in my 30s, 40s, 50s, and I'm in my 60s now, I was taking all this work on, which meant I never had downtime. And so probably about 15 years ago, I said, if I can't take care of it between, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever the time, and it's not that important and it can wait until tomorrow, it waits until tomorrow, I go home. My husband appreciates that.
Yeah. Yeah. Those boundaries are essential. When you don't have them, that's when life really gets out of balance. I can't stand the phrase work-life balance because I don't think there is such a thing. I think there is work-life integration, right? And it
Right.
is really about, but you have to have those clear boundaries in order to really make it effective.
Exactly.
Jackie, what's the final word you want to give to this group? Something that you would like them to do? Is there one small takeaway that you would like them to have from our conversation today?
I would say 2 things. Number one, I appreciate the fact that you came because I think these conversations are important. Thank you, Becky, for the invitation. I would recognize for anyone who's interested in becoming a leader or you're currently a leader, just understand that leadership is stewardship. That would be the takeaway as far as that's concerned. As far as Step Forward is concerned, just go to our website, stepforwardtoday.org. Find out the information about the organization. There are things that we could use your help with. One is money. Number 2 is your time. It's invaluable. So thank you very much, Becky, for the opportunity to have the conversation.
Thank you for making time for us. And let me invite everyone to thank Jackie along with me for this incredible conversation and for your leadership, Jackie. We are so grateful for all that you and all of your colleagues at Step Forward do. So thank you.
Thank you.